This is Chronicles of the Last Liturian, Book 3, Infinite Truths and Impossible Lies, written by Kenneth Rogers, Jr., narrated by Kenneth Rogers, Jr. Introduction. How do you save a life? I've asked myself this question countless times since 2007. To answer this question, I first turned to Ray Bradbury, the great science fiction writer. As a scrawny black kid from Illinois, Bradbury was my hero. I discovered him when I read the Martian Chronicles during my freshman year in high school. At the time, I was in honors English. Unfortunately, Peoria High's honors classes for freshmen meant reading complex texts that really made you think, while standard classes read easier novels that were more fun. While I loved Poe's Masque of the Red Death and could tolerate Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, I was a sci-fi nerd through and through. So, when I saw some of my friends holding a book with sleek-skinned golden aliens on the front cover, complaining that they had to read stupid stories that made no sense, I raced to the school library, checked out the novel, and began to read. Afterward, I loved the stories so much that I read as much Ray Bradbury as I could find. Eventually, my love of all things Ray Bradbury led me to The Illustrated Man and to Oliver Lee's Birth. As a kid, reading The Illustrated Man, the idea of creating a collection of short stories with a continuous character connecting all narratives was authentic and unlike anything I had ever read. It's in this way that Oliver Lee acts as the anchor of all the narratives in the diary of Oliver Lee, just as Bradbury used the tattooed man in his novel, The Illustrated Man, to connect all of his short stories. However, there was a problem. After writing book 1 of the Liturian trilogy, I had no idea where to take the narrative. To continue using the same premise for book 2 seemed mundane and overdone. I wanted something original. However, I did not want to lose Kevin and Jennifer. I did not want them to die. And, more importantly, I did not want their unborn child to die. They raised questions about interracial marriage that I wanted and needed answered, not only about their lives, but my own. For over 5 years, I was lost, unsure of how or if I wanted to continue the project. So, I returned to the question, how do you save a life? A portion of the answer came with time. I knew Kevin and Jennifer would not be allowed to die, but how? The answer couldn't be rushed if it was going to work, so I waited. Eventually, the answer came with the passing of my brother-in-law, TJ. I never knew TJ, at least not in the same way as I did my wife, her parents, and her younger brother. As a child, TJ was high-functioning. In fact, if you met TJ as a child, you may not have believed he was special needs, but simply overactive. He was able to walk, talk, and interact the same as any other kid. My wife, Sarah, often tells stories and shows videos of TJ's classic younger sibling shenanigans. Tales involving TJ slapping the bare of her back with his open hand, running away only to return a few moments later to do it all over again. Stories of his obsession with Batman, cravings for Kraft cheese, and his love of anything and everything Disney, all while bringing a smile to everyone's face. Unfortunately, TJ was born with the degenerative disease MPS, a form of Sanfilippo syndrome. This meant that while Sarah and her family had fond memories of TJ as a child, I was never able to meet that same fun-loving kid. Instead, the young man I met years later could not speak and was confined to a wheelchair or bed, but was still loved beyond belief by the people around him. While I was never able to have a full conversation with TJ, I saw the young boy everyone loved trapped behind his eyes. He still loved Batman and all things Disney when I came into his life, but his energy and his life were fading. He impacted lives in positive ways in a manner I can only imagine and wish to do myself one day. To testify to TJ's strength and love, he lived into his late 20s, while most children diagnosed with MPS, unfortunately, never make it out of their teens. Why am I speaking of TJ? Because if it wasn't for him, I would not have my wife and 2 daughters today. The saying is true. There are some individuals
Sample complete. Ready to continue?